It's time for the Leadership Lunch Break with Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy. Let's tune in for today's discussion with Hannah Pease.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Leadership Lunch Break. I am so glad that you all are joining us today as we get ready for spring. It's been an interesting winter, but I'm so glad you're here. Let me tell you, I am so very excited to share somebody super special to me. I met this young lady, three,
Keep
4
talking.
Okay. I met this beautiful young lady, so very young and youthful, probably about 3 months ago. No, 3 years ago, as I say months. 3 years ago,
right.
she was actually living in the States, and we developed a friendship over a heart of service. And since then, we have continued to stay in contact, although she's gone back across the pond. But I wanted to share her with you. I wanted to introduce you to her. She's so special to me. This is my good friend and partner in you don't even know how many things, Hannah Pease. Hannah, thank you so much for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. I'm so glad to have you.
Well, thank you for having me today. It's a real privilege to just be walking this journey with you, to be inspired by you, to be challenged by you, and to continue that friendship. God is doing something good. So I'm so pleased to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, who you are, and all that great stuff.
Okay. I would love to. Well, my name is Hannah. I have 3 very beautiful children. They are 16, 14, and 12. I also have a furry friend called Aggie. She's our cockapoo. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for the best part of 22 years. We met as kids. We went through Sunday school together. We had a fiery, passionate relationship as teenagers, and it was on, and then it was off, and then it was on again. And finally, he walked me down the aisle. So he is my sweetheart. He is the husband of my youth. And together we pastor. We've pastored all over the place. We've pastored small churches and big churches and everything in between. And you can see right at the bottom of the screen here that the name of our local church family is Hope Church Family. So that's what we do together. And I'm currently freelancing with Joy. I write. I like to edit. I like to create. I like words. So that's how we're working together right now.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you so much for joining me, Hannah. Today, we are going to talk about leadership. And if you saw the title, Hannah and I are like-minded sisters in Christ. We believe in leadership, but we believe in leadership from more than just being a boss or a manager. We really believe in the essence of leadership as a spiritual principle and a way that we guide and lead, not just in the workplace, but how we lead at home, how we lead in church, how we lead in relationships. And so we're going to jump into conversations about that. So our title is Show Me, Teach Me, and Lead Me. Really, leadership and discipleship. So Hannah, how would you define leadership in that capacity?
Well, that's a really interesting one, Joy. And that's Show Me, Teach Me, Lead Me comes from Psalm 25. And basically, I agree with you that leadership is, in fact, discipleship. And actually, it's really straightforward. And for most of us, for most of you watching today, and certainly in my own experience, we are already discipling somebody. It doesn't matter whether you are full-time mom or whether you are leading in a faith context or whether you are leading in your workplace. These are practical steps with regard to how you lead. And actually, when you look at the outcome of the lives amongst whom you live, you'll see that they reflect your own leadership. As we see here in the Psalm, show me, teach me, lead me. And I just want to give you a message translation of that, which is really helpful for me. Okay, so in the message it says, show me your work, school me in your ways, take me by the hand and lead me. So we've got 3 keys there. So show me is about demonstration. I put to you today that people around you are watching your life. Every single day, you and I are demonstrating something, whether that's how to apply your lipstick, whether that's how you talk to your husband, whether that's how you treat your work colleagues, everything about our lives
Absolutely.
is a
And I
demonstration.
think that's so important because we forget that. We forget that we are walking examples of something. And
Right.
we get to choose what that something is. We get to choose
That's right.
if it is positive or we get to choose
Right.
if it's negative. We demonstrate every single day, and we have to be
Every single
mindful of
day.
that. I don't think many people are aware that people are
Absolutely.
really watching you, and especially as a leader. If you call yourself a leader in any title,
Right.
if you call yourself a
Right.
leader, people are watching. They're watching your
That's right.
reactions, they're watching your responses, they're
That's right.
watching how you interact, they're watching
Mhm.
how you interact with them. So people even are
That's right.
observing how you demonstrate your relationship in direct relationship with them. I think that is
That's right.
absolutely, absolutely important. Yes.
Absolutely. And actually, I put it to you today that with or without title, you're leading
Mhm.
somebody. And
Absolutely.
so when you become aware of that, then you
Absolutely.
can make great choices about the way in which
Absolutely.
we live our lives, and the things that we
Absolutely.
demonstrate. And then we come on
Absolutely.
to teach me. So
Mhm.
showing me is about that demonstration. And
Yes.
I see that so keenly with my own children, and now
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
teenagers, and I see myself in them,
Yes.
and that can be really sobering.
Yes.
There are some
Yes.
things
Yes.
I love about my kids, and there are some things that I find really challenging, and I see myself in both. And so I
Absolutely.
think
Yes.
for the last 16, 14, 12 years of their
Mhm.
lives, they've been watching me show them something, and they are the fruit
Absolutely.
of the thing I've been demonstrating.
And we
But then
spend a
I can,
lot of time like that. I mean, Hannah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think about that
yeah,
because I've got 7-year-olds and I
right,
am aware of
hmm,
what I say and what I do have to match. And I think a lot of
right,
times in leadership, in parenting, in marital relationships, they
right.
don't necessarily match. So
No,
we
they
have to
don't.
always think I mean, we grew up hearing do as I say, not as I do. No, you
Right,
can't say one thing and do another and expect
no,
people to understand
right,
what's right or what's true or what's authentic or to even
right.
produce the fruit that you want if you're not
Yeah,
walking the same walk that you're talking. I think that is
right.
absolutely. And if you want to know how good you're doing, look at your children.
Yes,
Look
exactly.
at your
And
kids
I
if you
couldn't,
want to know. Yes.
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it takes great courage actually to become a person, a billboard of your principles. And I really admire
Absolutely.
you that in you, Joy, because I see a
Thank you.
woman who is committed to walking honorably, to doing business
Thank you.
with integrity. It takes courage to do that,
It does.
particularly in today's workplace. I think that's often challenged by the bottom line. But actually, leadership isn't necessarily about the thing that you're trying to achieve. It's about who you're taking with you in the process. And if you want to build something that lasts, whether that's
Yes.
family, whether that's charitable, whether that's faith-based, whether that's
Yes.
commercial, if you want to build something that lasts, you have to walk people through with you. So then
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we come to that teaching element,
Yes.
because
Yes.
people will observe your demonstration. But then if you
Absolutely.
really want things to sit well with them, you're going to have to teach them. And teaching is repeated. It's not a one-time event.
Yes.
Discipleship,
Yes. That's
leadership
good.
is
That's good.
not a question of, here's the program, go follow it. It's
Yes.
about, this is how we are going to build business together. These are our
Absolutely.
principles. These are our
Absolutely.
values. This is why. This is our motivation.
Absolutely.
And it's consistent. The things that we teach are consistent with what we demonstrate, but they're also consistent with where we anticipate going. And
Yes.
I think there's a great deal of security in that,
Mhm.
whether that's family life or whether that's commercial life. And I think that's exciting because really that's empowering for you and
Yes.
I.
Yes. Yes.
When we
Absolutely.
decide to take our family somewhere, when we decide to take our corporation somewhere, that's really empowering. And
Absolutely.
it's an everyday decision to teach
Absolutely.
well, to break it down.
And it's important to remember that when you're teaching, sometimes you're teaching and there's no playbook. And you got to be okay with
Right,
that. Your
right,
your teachable moments, you may or may not know where it's coming from, but when you're leading people and God has called you to a
right.
place where you're actually influencing, you've got to just be ready to teach. And you have
That's
experiences
right.
along the way that I think have prepared all of us. And I think sometimes we don't
Absolutely.
realize that we're prepared. So we're afraid or uncomfortable teaching because
Yeah,
if we were waiting for that education moment or for that certificate that says you graduated. So now you're an expert
Right.
in this, instead of recognizing that lessons come from anywhere. So it doesn't have to be a formal instruction. It's truly me sharing my experiences with you and sharing what I've learned in a way that makes you, that gives you insight, that gives you wisdom, that pours into you. I think people sometimes we spend so much time thinking I'm not qualified to share, or I'm not qualified to teach or lead because I don't have the education. Well, listen, you've lived.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If
I
you've
couldn't
lived,
agree with you more.
you have the experience. So yes, that
Absolutely.
is awesome,
And I
awesome,
think that
awesome.
again, that's one of the most authentic places to lead from.
Mhm.
When you have had an experience which you can teach from, out of maybe the hurt, out of the joy, out of the pain, out of the challenge, out of the success. When you have an experience which is authentic to you, that's a great place to teach from. And then we also have this whole area of leading. And like the Message version says, it says, "Take me by the hand and lead me." And I love that. I love the fact that leadership doesn't go on from several paces in front. Leadership is about taking somebody, taking your organization, taking your church, taking your family by the hand. And it means that leadership is a shoulder to shoulder experience. I've lost Joy there. But yeah, leadership is a shoulder to shoulder experience. And I'm so glad you're still live with me. I'm just checking back with Joy. Yeah, shoulder to shoulder, we walk together, and it's not about being ahead of people. It's not about position, which is up front. It's about what's going on for you together as a family. You can't run ahead, just like when you lead your children, however old they are, but when they're toddlers, you take them somewhere. You're not going to run on ahead and leave them behind. You wait for that little one to catch up with you, or you take them and you walk with them, and you show and you teach until the point where they are ready to be able to be independent of you. And that's part of the wonderful element of discipleship, that you are raising a team, you are raising a family, you are raising a congregation, you're raising a workplace to be effective in your absence. And you know that when you've been able to leave somebody to do the job that you've demonstrated and that you've taught them and that you've walked in them with them in, that you've done a great job of leading and discipling them. So it's a fantastic privilege. I absolutely love walking with people. People are a privilege. And really, I think sometimes we get confused. Sometimes we think that leadership is more about where we're going than who we're with. But actually,
Absolutely.
if we're going alone, we're not truly leading. So that's why I love that whole vision of discipleship. I'm going somewhere, but I'm taking you with me, and I'm taking you with me at your pace.
Absolutely.
So it's so
Listen.
important. It's so important.
Oh, so Hannah, let me tell you, you all are in such good hands. I lost connection, and I came back, and Hannah was ministering, and it was awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, I will say I absolutely agree, and I think in this world right now, the world we're living in, people don't have that principle anymore. We're so corporate minded and status minded and privileged. I mean, we're just so caught up in ourselves that we forget that leadership is about serving. And we've coined this phrase, servant leadership, and I think it's a really cool catchphrase that people are using now to describe. But when you really think about being a servant, it's exactly what you said. It's about looking for others and supporting others and walking with others. And so if you're leader in any capacity and you're not aware of the fact that you have this influence and you have this, a real leader has responsibility and the level and the depth of the commitment they have to the responsibility is great. And if you're a leader and you're not affected by the people around you, the people walking with you, if you're not being affected or impacted by the things that impact them, then you're not really leading. And discipleship is just about that. It's about walking together. So if I'm walking with you and we're yoked together, then what affects you affects me. What hurts you hurts me. When you celebrate, I celebrate. And a lot of times when we talk about leadership, especially in the corporate arena, we forget that. We think it's about who's the boss, who's the employee, or who's the boss and who's the manager. When the truth of the matter is, it's a team. And if we're a team, then we all win. We all celebrate. If we lose, we all lose. I've never seen a team where they say, you know what, we lost, but the coach won. No, if we lose, we all lose. If we win, we all win. And when you're working with people, it's important to remember that. It's important to share that with people. Hey, I'm with you. We're going to do this together. It doesn't matter who I am. It doesn't matter what I'm called. It doesn't matter what you called. Even in a parental relationship, I find myself spending a lot of time talking to my girls. And it's funny because I have 7-year-olds. And instead of, I'm your mom, do it because I said so, it's really a conversation. It's really an explanation because they're people, and I want them to respect me as their mother, but I want them to know that I've been 7 too. Now I can't tell you I remember 7, although it was just a few years ago. I want them to know that I remember what it was like to have emotions and to be sad and to be, and we can't get so disconnected that we forget that we've walked in the shoes of the people who are walking. I mean, that's what made it so special about Christ. He walked in the shoes that he walked in. So now when we're praying, he gets it. He understands. He's sympathetic. He's empathetic. He's gracious. He's patient because he's seen us walk in that same way, and he's done it. So if you can't remember the time that you walked in the shoes of the people that you're leading, then you've become too detached. And you've become so far away that people can't relate to you, and people aren't going to trust you because they don't know that you're human anymore. You're so something else, you know? So
I mean, that's such a challenge. That is such a challenge. It reminded me when you were talking about your twin girls, actually they will be different from each other. So not only are you putting yourselves in the shoes of one, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the other, and they're individual, and that's so precious. And that's why leadership is one of the most compassionate, one of the most gracious things that you can truly do. And you can't expect all those around you to learn to walk with you in the same way. So it takes a great deal. It's a real position of honor to be taking people with you and to understand, like you've just said, you know, how do they tick? How does life affect me? What does it look like for you when I'm going through a difficult time? How are you responding to me? And I think we are getting better at that in the workplace. I think as women, we have a particularly sweet sensitivity. We are emotionally intelligent. I think we're a great asset in the workplace. I really want you to understand and know the power that you have. I mean, we could talk about biblical women who carried positions of authority and influence with and without title. But you know that you are one of those, and I really want you to feel that sense of liberty, that it doesn't have to be a title position from which you influence. You know, you can change your community upside down from where you are, from your number 22 home or your 3763 or whatever it is, you know, just by being you.
Absolutely. And a lot of times you get more impact when you're just yourself and you're not concerned about the title or not concerned about the position. Even if you're a leader, if you were to one day go into your job, into your home and just say, today I'm going to take my hat off. I'm going to, like I do with my kids, I'm going to roll around in the grass with them. I'm going to be what they need. I'm going to interact with them. I'm going to, like, I do things like when I talk to my girls, I get at eye level. because I respect them and I understand it's important that I don't stand over them, so that they have, it's certain principles and practices that you can do to say, today I
Absolutely.
choose to, and not to say I choose to be like you, but today I want you
Right.
to see, because even like they talk about the white coat syndrome and how they've encouraged doctors to stop wearing white coats because there's an
Right.
intimidation factor and there's a level
Yeah.
of authority that you have with the white coat. But anytime people go to the doctor, some people truly have anxiety. But imagine if you were just to take that coat off and say, hey, listen, I'm a doctor, but I'm here to talk to you. I want to, and I choose to
Right.
eliminate the big words. I choose to
Yeah,
speak in
to
a way
talk in
that
your language.
absolutely words
That's
that you
so
can
key.
understand,
Absolutely.
and give the empathy and the compassion and the care that you need. That's what makes leadership special. That's what
I
makes
love that.
walking the journey with people special, is just being
Yes.
in a space where I'm going to relate to you, because leadership is
Yeah.
about relating to people.
That's
Really
it.
and
That's it.
truly,
It's all
at the
about
heart of it
relationship.
all, it's about relating. So how do you relate to people?
Absolutely.
What do you say to them? How do you
Right.
handle difficult situations with them? Because we're
Mhm.
all human, we're going to all go through things, and that's a
Right.
part of our journey. But how do we do that with grace
That's
and with
right.
compassion for
That's right.
people? And I think, honestly, I
Absolutely.
mean, Jesus showed us how to do that.
Mhm.
He would talk in parables about taxes to the tax collectors. He would talk
Yep.
about, a sowing seed to the farmers.
Yep.
He
The arable.
understood
Yep.
that
Mhm.
although I am Christ, in order for me to win you and for you to trust me and for you to
Yes.
believe, I've got
Yes.
to talk to you on a level. He didn't come in and say, I'm Jesus, I know it all.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you can check my
Right.
resume. You
Come
know who
on.
my father is. You know
Yep.
where I came from. I own everything. And no, he came
Mhm.
with an humble spirit and an humble heart.
Yep.
And he served. He
Yep.
washed his disciples' feet. He showed, if you want to lead, you first have to follow.
Yep.
You first have to be
That's right.
willing to take to sacrifice yourself and to give of yourself,
Mhm.
so that others can be blessed and others can see the humility in you. And I
Mhm.
encourage leaders today, if you're watching us, to think about being humble, to think about
Yes.
humility. And it doesn't change your
Mm.
status. I mean, Jesus serving didn't change the fact that he was Jesus.
Absolutely. The Son of
He
God.
was still Jesus, but he
Yeah.
but he understood the importance of showing us what it's like to be a servant to all people. And he
Sure.
didn't choose. He didn't what makes it
Absolutely.
he didn't choose. He didn't choose who. He decided
Mm.
that he would save us all. And leaders, you
Mm.
got to be mindful that you can't pick and choose the people who are good for you or the people who like you
Right.
and who cheer for
Mhm.
you. And the people who don't, you're not going to do anything with them. That's not leading through discipleship. It's saying, I choose to
Right.
give myself to everyone in the same way. I choose to pour out into
Absolutely.
people so that people can be blessed through me. And some will
That's
accept
right.
and some won't. Some will take the leadership and some won't. But I guarantee you, they'll all be changed from having been in your presence.
That's
And I
right.
think
That's
that's it. I think
right.
if you use leadership like that, that my goal is for people to be changed when they are in my
Mm.
presence, and when they leave
Yes.
my presence, they're better for it. Then you're
Absolutely.
serving, you're leading in a way that no matter what your title is, no matter what your pay is, no matter what your
Mhm.
status is, you are richer because
Yes.
of the seeds that you've sown and the way that you're investing in other people.
Absolutely. That's right. I love the fact that there's no one type of leader. There isn't.
Hmm.
Leadership can't be boxed or confined.
Hmm.
You may define different types of
Yes.
roles, but
Yes.
again, I just come back to the fact that leadership is influence, and we are all
Absolutely.
influencing. And my heart's desire
Hmm.
is for us to embrace. Let's just call a spade, to embrace the unique individuals that God has created us to be,
Absolutely.
to not try and be anybody else, to not run
Absolutely.
anybody else's race, to not sit in anybody
Absolutely.
else's lane, just to bloom in the gifts
Hmm.
that God's given you,
Yes.
and to change your world. We don't have to change the
Absolutely.
whole world, just
Absolutely.
our little part of it. And
Absolutely.
you can have such a profound effect. And that whole thing about leadership being a journey, it's not flash in the pan. It's
Hmm.
not the big conference or the
Yes.
huge sum of money
That's
you pay
good.
to hear the guest speaker. It's not those things.
Yes.
This whole discipleship thing is a day by day journey. And it will have some tough times and some great times, but you will see the fruit of it borne out in your relationships every single day. So I want you to go ahead and lead. And maybe even just take a little look at what you can see reflected around you. You know, you're going to look at your husband, you're going to look at your children, you're going to look at your work colleagues, and you're going to see yourself reflected in them. Now is a good time to ask, do I like what I see?
Yes.
And if I want to change some of that, it's not too late. You know, I want to demonstrate these things. I want to teach these things. I want to lead this way. And I'm going to do it with grace and compassion. And I completely and totally believe in you. I believe you're equipped. Again, going back to Esther, as in the biblical Esther, you know, who knows, but that you were brought to royal position for such a time as this. It's one of my favorite all-time scriptures.
Absolutely.
You know, she was orphaned. She was raised by her uncle. She did some incredible things.
Absolutely.
Afraid. But she was in that position for such a time. And ladies and gents, if you're watching, I have no doubt that you are living where you are, in the community that you're in the workplace that you are, and it's by design, not by default. And you carry great influence. So slight tangent there, a little bit of a tangent.
Yes. No. But I think it's oh my gosh, it's so much because for me, I know, and I'll speak for myself. When I was in official leadership roles, meaning officially working in a role in an organization, it was a challenge to walk in my authenticity because as a leader, traditionally, you should look like this. You should sound like this. You should act like this. And it wasn't until I freed myself of that box and it wasn't about not working there anymore. It was about saying, Joy, are you happy with what you're demonstrating every day? Are you comfortable with that? Is it truly who you are? Are you influencing in the way that you know God has asked and called you to influence? Or are you dimming your light because you don't want to offend, or you don't want to rub someone the wrong way? So are you changing who you are? And I found myself doing that. I found myself trying to make everybody else comfortable, all the while being uncomfortable, because I wanted to be the leader that they saw in the box. And what I realized was the best leader is the authentic leader. No, I'm not going to do it the way everybody says. And that's okay. And when God promotes me to a place, he's promoted me there for a reason, to do it the way he's given it to me. So a lot of times, and to everyone who's listening, a lot of times God has given you something specifically for you to do, but you're challenged because it doesn't look like how everyone else has done it. But that's the blessing in it, because it was designed for you to do it your way. And I can speak to that because that's exactly what Speaking of Joy is now. It's me doing ministry and work and relationship building the way that I believe God has given it to me. And it's through relationships. It's through chats like this that we can share with the world so people can see there are people who have influence. There are people who take responsibility very seriously, accountability very seriously. And as a result, we're changing our world. We're changing. People may never see Hannah, Pease, or Joy anywhere else, but where we are, and for the people who will watch this, we're changing our world. So be encouraged to everyone that this, as Hannah said, this is the time, and you can change your world. Hannah, listen, we're gonna do this again, but let me tell you guys about Hannah. Listen, Hannah is brilliant in her writing and in her understanding of concepts and ideas. You don't understand how many times she's set up at 6:30 your time to chat with me, to help me figure out ideas and thoughts. And I'm going to challenge each and every one of you. You need to get a person who is like-minded spiritually, who can walk with you to help you navigate not just business, but personal and relationship things. And you, I mean, Hannah and I met over Christmas trees, and who knew?
That was divine.
Yes, we met over Christmas trees. Hannah was doing something in Katy, when she was living in Katy, Texas, that was giving Christmas trees to individuals who had lost Christmas trees during Harvey. Who
Right.
knew? I mean,
Trees
those
of
are
hope.
things you don't even think about. And she was doing
No,
that. And God knew that on March 11th, 2021, we needed to share
that's
this
right.
message. So he orchestrated a Christmas tree meeting so that we could get to this point to share this with you. So I'm going to invite
That's
you
right.
to follow Hannah, to access Hannah. Hannah, you want to share how people can reach you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. Yeah. So you can see there at My Hope Church Family is the local church that Mark and I are pastoring. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Currently in the UK, we are still pretty much locked down. So we have a load of stuff going out via YouTube and Facebook over the weekend. You can communicate with me personally on email. My email address, as my business address, is wordsforwhatever@gmail.com. That's wordsforwhatever@gmail.com, because that's the creative ability that God's given to me. And I'm loving working with Joy in that context. If you want to be my friend on Facebook, please be my friend on Facebook. If you want to find me on Instagram or on Twitter on Hannah Pease, then I would love to hear from you. And I think that's just about everything. Unless you pretty much want to hop on a plane right now, well, not right now, but when everything's freed up, come to the UK. Well, I will show you around.
Listen,
we can have lunch.
I'm saying it now. I plan on visiting you as soon. I've never been to the UK, so I plan on visiting you.
You must come.
I plan on it as soon as we can figure all of this out. I definitely plan on visiting you, and I want to across the airwaves say how much I appreciate you and how much I thank God for you and for the work that you've done with me and the work that you and Mark are doing in your community and for the kingdom and for the people of God. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
I do. There's one thing. I just want you to know, whoever you are, wherever you are, that you are accepted in the beloved, and that it's when you have a sweet revelation of the fact that you do not have to impress your Heavenly Father. He's already impressed with you, that you can relax into the person that He's made you to be. And as you understand that, as the eyes of your understanding, Ephesians tells us, are enlightened to that knowledge, you can then deposit that into the people around you. Because you know you're accepted, you are going to accept others. And at the end of the day, whatever we do and wherever we are, this whole thing is about Jesus and His beautiful bride, of which you are a part. So my prayer is that you would just know and understand the love that God has for you, and that would release you just to enjoy being you. In Jesus' name, amen.
There you go. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us for the Leadership Lunch Break. I want to thank Hannah for joining. I hope that you were blessed. I hope that you will share this with other people. Our hope and our prayer is that you are encouraged today just to have a little more extra oomph to make it until we meet again. So thank you all so much for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Join us next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time for lunch as we continue our discussions. Follow Speaking of Joy on all social media platforms or visit our website at www.speakingofjoy.com. That's www.speakingofjoye.com. Until next week.